Welcome back to the scenery farm. I'm doing something new today. I'm speeding up the video because, God, these are slow. I mean, I'm building in real time, and the last thing I think most of you want to do is see me do that. So here, I'm just screwing around here. I'm just having a little fun. I'm kind of like, I'm going to stand. I've done this before, and it works sometimes, but I'm standing. Oh, dominoes. I laugh out loud. I do it again. It happens again. I'm like, oh, this is stupid. But this is what I was trying to avoid. Look at this. I'm holding this up on the end, and then oh god, this I'll be smarter. And so I'm just sticking up a couple of 16 gauge nails in there. Those are the beveled pieces I did last time. This is awesome. Love this speed. And then you flip it over, and this is why the lines have to be on top and bottom and lining up, because you don't want to put these vertical sticks in on an angle. I make these sticks this time out of plywood, because I'm using the offcuts from the CNC to make them. They can split a little if you pin too close to the edge, or you don't pre-drill properly, or if the plywood is kind of cruddy. But whatever. And so now I'm putting the back piece on, and I just marked it. Bit of glue, overhang from the bench, take the nail, 16 gauge pinner, 1.5 inches, and just basically nail up. Oh, I'm at a nail. Oh wait, it's jammed. Oh. Nail. Pain. Stop it. What? Put it in there. It's not going to work again, everyone. Look at that. What's going on? Look at, nail. Screw it. I'm going pneumatic. It's lighter anyways. I prefer using pneumatics in the shop. So, pop that in there. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put these pads on the corners, and that's just going to strengthen. And I just glued those together. Put some, because they're 1.5 inch pins, I put them on a bit of an angle so I don't poke through the other face. Figure out the center piece here, cut it, make it square, put some pins in there. Once it's square, put a mark on the far end there, and then I flip the thing over, lift the piece up into place on the other side of the skin, pin it to hold it in place until I get to the screws. Now I'm going to put some diagonals in there. You need some form of skirt when people stand on this. Well, it's seeing light use when people stand on this. And all I'm doing is marking the position on the tops, scribing the underside of them. And I decided to do it a different way. Scribe the underside of it. And then I take over the chop saw. And because it's scribed on the edge, I use the laser as the bevel gauge. And, you can get pretty darn close with this, and you can just skip the whole bevel gauge dealio. So I put the glue on it, I lay it in place, I pin it, just to hold it. And then I do the other side, do the exact same thing. Use the skirt that's there as the bevel gauge, and mark it so I know where it's going to line up on the top. And I'm doing the exact same deal as I did before. Look at that. It's glued. Pin. Pin. This is full speed. I haven't sped this up at all. This is literally how fast I work. And I do pre-drill all this stuff. Simply, I'm kind of wondering why the lights are going on and off in my shop. And I pre-drill, countersink all this stuff. I know where the centerpiece is. And this, I'm measuring the skirt to the underside, and then I'm just figuring it out, because it seems a pretty fast way of doing it, folks. And this is me pre-drill, countersinking the tops into the center, so it's 2 pins, and I flipped this over and I'm just pre-drilling the skirt pieces, screwing those together, and I have put the screws through the top. So I mean, it's essentially a box top riser with it. I do put a leg on the back middle. The front edge of this is going to be plenty strong, but I do support this. I'm not sure if I show this in the videos, but I don't need it to stand on my bench, but I will do that when I before it goes on stage. Oh wait, no, there, I do put a leg in. So good. I don't bother pre-drilling the legs. I'm just fixing it, and this is an old hammer trick. Put a hammer on the back of whatever you're hammering, and that way it doesn't flex, so you can actually put all the force into the thing you're hammering. Those are just some pin nails that didn't sink properly. This is me figuring out 8-foot length, because the wiggle board is 8 feet long, which of these uprights I'm going to attach to. So I've ripped the wiggle board down to the correct dimension. It's a little bit shorter than it's required, so it doesn't go all the way to the ground. It's like floating a mill or a fat 32nd off the deck, so it doesn't get caught. I have some 1-inch narrow crowns. I typically staple cross grain on the wiggle. It doesn't go as deep and it's grabbing more. If you go with the grain, it certainly goes in nicely. You don't have as much of a messy surface, so that's one reason you might go with the grain, but I like doing it because I get better grab when I go cross grain. All that's glued together, and then I'm just scribing the vertical lines here using a square so that I can hit those upright rails. And yeah, it's looking weird. It's not right. There's my bald spot. And I mean, wiggle goes on pretty nicely. I want to cut this off, so I just freehand it to the scribe line, or the line, and I take my block plane, and it's wiggling a bunch. I've got to adjust the depth because I was using it on maple, and wiggle ply is just so soft. You can really hog it out with a plane. And I angle those wrong, so I have to grind off the tips of them. But now it's not moving, it's staying flush up against the wood, and I'm just clearing that right off because it's a block plane. All the shavings are landing in my hand, so you can't really see that. Toss them back to the camera, use my block plane, or my sanding block, my curved sanding block. And I'm not sure if you could see there, but the top lip is hanging over a fat mill, thin 16th. And now I'm beveling the edge that's going to meet up against the other piece, because I want to have a place for the mud to go. And that's the bit I couldn't get into. I didn't bevel it in advance. And you really glue the poop out of this. You add a lot of glue because it's what's going to hold this in. After all, the staples are just simply clamps. I had a boo-boo. I don't know where I did it, but I caught my finger on something and I ended up with a paper cut at the end of my finger, so I was bleeding from my art. And I needed someone to give me a hug to get through that very difficult time. Cut that off again. It's at a 90-degree angle. I could use a router or something like that, but you know, I do have a plane. It's quite useful. I have a few planes. I have like a one that I kind of think, oh, I'll only use this on really fancy projects, and I'm going to love it to death. And this is a record, and it's like just your standard block plane. But I end up using it I need a plane for almost everything. And I do clean it off. I did get a bit of glue on it, and I did wipe it off there, but it went by pretty quickly. So I do care about it, but, you know, if I nick anything, I just sharpen it again. It's no big deal. And this is a flush trim, and so the top is overhanging with the 16th, and I just flush it back to make so that was me just showing it's a wiggly piece, so it's a piece of wiggle board around a sandpaper from a belt sander, and that way it's a curved sanding block. You can also stick a couple pieces of wood together that wedge together to create a tight solid block on that stuff, and I'm just doing a bit of a quick sand and kind of going, this is stupid, throwing dust in my face. I have my 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 Amphenon vacuum up above my bench off to the side, so I don't have to walk over cords anymore, and I have the hose on a bit of a I don't know the name for it. There's a name for it, but basically a line that has a bunch of pulleys, so it just kind of pulls along the bench, or I can tuck it out of the way. There's an industrial name for that thing. I saw it the other day, and I can't remember what it is. So I give it a quick sand where the staples were, any of the fur, bring it down a bit on the wood, and then I go to mud. This is seeing pretty light use. If this were a long serving riser and it was going to go on tour, and that I would use auto body filler to fill the screw holes on the top, but I'm just giving this a bit of a lick of paint, and I'm cleaning off my my poor man's hawk there. I don't want to carry a hawk around, so I just use a piece of wood to that mud has been around a bit. It's got some water in it, and I'm just working it smooth again. And this is me filling the holes. It's going to need another fill afterwards, the screw holes, but they will definitely last long enough. But if it were, like I was saying, if this were a long standing piece, I would use Bondo or auto body filler, synonyms there, to do it. But the drywall mud, I definitely fill like a carpenter. I mean, I'm not awful at it, but man, when you see a scenic painter do this stuff, they are so good at this. This show needs a fairly basic paint treatment, so I'm going to take care of it. And this is, I'm doing a full, and I probably should have gotten a bigger palette knife there, but whatever. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm filling all the pores, I'm filling all the holes, and then I'm filling all the pores, and that's me filling the cove, the little sanded area where the two pieces join. It's going to need a sand back and a fill, but I'm taking off all the excess mud. This is fairly watery mud, so it goes on pretty quickly, easily, and it's mixed, and you can see I'm just scraping it all back and leaving as smooth a surface as possible. After the sand, I'll touch it up again. And yeah, this is all I really do. I take it down to this, and then sand it, fill any deficits, and then prime it and paint it, and you have a decent curved riser. I have another riser that I do from the CNC. It's essentially the same process as this, but I don't have to cut it out with my router in my hand. I just send the machine to do it. It's pretty useful for lining up stuff that has to fit together. This was standing in front of everything else, but the other stuff that lines up together, the CNC is super useful. All right, until next time, you all take good care.